Hi everyone, my name is Justin Odisho and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today I'm very excited to have special guest Matt Workman of Cinematography Database on the show, and in this episode we dive into some of his many years of experience working in the industry as a cinematographer for many artists and brands that you may recognize, music videos, commercials, and more, and how he's transitioning recently into his own company, Cinematography Database, where he's developing software and creating content and full-time interneting, as he says. So I'm very excited for you guys to listen to this episode. There's a lot of very valuable information that he's bringing from the table, speaking from experience, and behind-the-scenes talk that you may not be able to get in the content normally. So as always, this podcast is available on YouTube, iTunes, so feel free to like and subscribe, and let's jump right into it. Matt, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. What is the name of the show? Do you have it? Is it the Justin Odisho show?
I'm like flip-flopping because right now it's just the Justin Odisho podcast. But the thing is, my last name already has show in it, so I could call it the Odisho. I could do a lot of things with it, but I haven't.
I like that. I feel like if you keep pushing that every day, you'll figure out something that is super punny.
It just rhymes, so I don't know. The Odisho, we're working on it. But out of all those things I said, how do you prioritize them? Did I miss one? I said like entrepreneur, YouTuber, father.
Well, for the last 10 years-ish, something like that, it's been cinematographer was number one. And I was fortunate enough to get some traction in my career in college and directly out. And I was able to focus my life 100% on cinematography. And I think that's how I was able to accomplish the things that I was able to do. But what happened is that I married my long-term girlfriend, Diana Levine. She's now my wife. We have 2 kids. And with the kids and family, I have decided that I don't want to give 100% of my life to cinematography like I was doing beforehand. So there was a big shift that happened where I started to I wasn't going to take TV pilots. I definitely wasn't going to do movies. Movies were way too long. And then started to transition into business and kind of software design. So I created a program called Cine Designer, which is a previs lighting and camera app, or plugin really, but you can consider it an app. And then on my way to simply just market that app, that was the only goal, was to go from DPing full-time to DPing part-time and doing software part-time, kind of 50-50. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I need to market this, right? So how do kids market stuff these days? How do you internet market? How do you do all that really cheesy stuff? I've done the cheesy stuff in the beginning, definitely like the blogging, and then
the stuff that you probably saw, like this is how you make a Facebook video.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that's and I loved all that stuff, and I love the people that I learned that from. But basically, was for a year was about 50-50. I was half DP, half software development, and really no social media at all, which is kind of crazy to think about now. But I was like, okay, it's time to start a blog, time to start a podcast, time to start an Instagram, just time to start a Facebook, time to start a YouTube channel. And I just did all of them. I was just like, hey, let me start making some stuff. And we started with 0. And this was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Nothing. Oh, so this was all, I was going to say, when was the inception of all this? Like 2-3 years ago with the YouTube and all these platforms?
About 2 to 3 years. And, in the beginning, like anyone I'm sure who's listening who starts any of these channels on any platform, it's like, well, this is a waste of time. Yeah. It's like, because no one's, it's like, oh, cool, 5 likes today. That's fun, and it does take a lot of time. But I just knew it was part of it. And I learned from one of my biggest influences at that point in time was Andrew Kramer, who was Video Copilot. Yeah,
influence to me as well, I was going to say.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he'd be on the show. He's around on the internet still, like pushing new stuff. And did he start a podcast? I know he came back to YouTube briefly for a little bit.
I believe I saw him on guesting on other podcasts, but I haven't checked into if he has his own podcast. He still has his YouTube channel, where I don't know if he posts that frequently, but
I think he would do it. I see him on Grayscale Gorilla and SIGGRAPH, and he still has. I think that his audience and yours would have some crossover in the design, and you do like.
I haven't thought of that yet, but I'm gonna add him onto my little notepad here.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, looking at that, I was like, well, who's someone that's selling creative software on the internet, right? And I was like, oh, well, Andrew Kramer, Video Copilot. He has a plugin for After Effects, and I have a plugin for Cinema 4D. It's this, and it's the same model. And I was like, well, how does he sell this software? And he has like a personality, which I don't, on air personality, which back then I didn't at all. I was just terrible.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, content. This guy just pumps out content and he's having fun. It doesn't hurt that he was like, did VFX, a little bit of VFX on J.J. Abrams' last movie, Star Wars. So I just saw that formula and I was like, okay, it's time to just start making content. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to do YouTube. I didn't know how to podcast or blog. I just started making things. And then 3 years later, now we're talking about priorities. It's about, unfortunately, 0% cinematography. I don't do any freelance cinematography work. I still get called. I'm on an agency. I just haven't taken any jobs for like about 2 years. I took like 5 in the last 3 years, something like that. But it's been software development is number one, pushing Cine Designer, Cinema 4D. We're going to go into Unity. We're going to go into mobile. That takes a lot of time. And then just with the kind of like unexpected success of our Instagram channel and YouTube channel, those have become a big part of it. And I've always loved YouTube, so I love watching other YouTubers. So I was like, oh wow, like people are actually subscribing to this channel. Maybe I can make this bigger. And that's how we ended up meeting. And I went to NAB and I did the whole being sponsored thing, which is, we could talk about that. I have my opinions about it now, and working with brands and, just doing YouTube stuff. And I think that's how most people know me. So they're like, oh yeah, Matt's like a YouTuber, but really YouTube is,
a newer thing.
Yeah, it's a smaller percentage of what I do. Like if I was to, like I didn't do YouTube for a month this month, like last month. If I left that, it really doesn't and didn't affect my company as much as I thought it would have.
And when you say your company, you're talking about Cine Designer or Cinematography Database? Which one of those would you consider the company? Cine Designer is like the product, right?
Yeah, Cine Designer is the product and the bigger brand overall, even though we only have, we have 2 now, but our only 2 products are Cine Designer, which is a plugin for Cinema 4D. And then last month, I spent an entire month making my first course for myself. And that's now the second part of the company. Because Cine Designer is really kind of it's a niche audience for sure. It requires a lot of money to get into it. It requires a lot of time. And for people that are new or don't fully committed to it, it doesn't make that much sense financially because it's priced pretty enterprise level. So I wanted to be able to make something for my YouTube audience and for film students. And I figured that I've been making courses for other platforms. Like I've made an online course for almost every major course platform online. That's how I learned how to YouTube, was making courses.
Yeah, like Udemy and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I did FX PhD,
I've heard of
digital tutors, which is now Pluralsight. What is it? I always forget that there's so many. I forget the names of them. But I finally made my first course that was for my platform and marketed only by me, and it's on white cycle lighting. So I was able to combine Cine Designer and illustrate all the lighting diagrams and concepts with kind of like my YouTubiness and put them together, and I've been selling that. And that's been selling really well, so that's really nice. So that's like a whole new part of the business now, is that as I update Cine Designer, I can then make a course with those updates and pick a new topic, and I go in much deeper. It's like basically like 30 YouTube videos in one course. And dropping a 30-part series on YouTube just doesn't make sense. So it's like that really, even if I could give it out for free, I still think that having it in a paid course platform is better. So those are the many things. But yeah, long story short, is cinematography database is the brand. Cine Designer, we have a courses section. I haven't given that a different name, but those are the 2 things I've decided to focus on, at least for this year. And
I think that's a very similar direction to where I've also been wanting to take things, because I just feel like I also have been inspired by Andrew Kramer, who I see doing all the software, because sometimes it's not sustainable, just the content side of things. And you see a lot of YouTubers, probably with much bigger audiences than you or I, who are struggling to stay afloat or continue creating content as soon as there's some bumps in the AdSense things or things like that on YouTube. And I feel like the way that you're doing it, and people like Andrew Kramer, is the perfect model, which I try to preach to anyone trying to make content, is to come in with a real hard skill or product and business plan underneath that'll allow you to sustain it. And you kind of came into it backwards, but a lot of YouTubers, I think, start off the front way, just making content, not for a particular reason,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, Roberto Blake is really good online talking about that, and
Yeah.
Gary Vee and all the good. There's a lot that we're fortunate for people that want to try to make money online, that there are people who talk about it and can give you the rundown. And that's what I learned too. And I relearn it every day, is that like, okay, this is fun. Like I got into vlogging, like, and I saw, and you've been doing some vlogging too. And I got to the point where I vlogged with MKBHD real quick.
Yeah,
That was
really
funny.
cool.
I got to meet Casey Neistat.
I saw that. Yeah, that's cool.
And I got to do the vlogging thing. I'm like, this is so fun. It's like, I'm like, I'm YouTubing, but like at the end of the day, it's like, but I didn't make any money though. Like, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't pay my bills. That doesn't really push anything out there. And my audience is very quick to tell me, they're like, that's cool. You met Casey. Go back to making some content that we care about. And I'm like, okay. So I got a little bit caught up in the YouTube scene. It was fun, but Roberto Blake talks about it too. It's like, he's like, I could leave YouTube tomorrow and I don't care. He's like, it does not affect what my real business is. I mean, it would. I mean, it's marketing, but it's like, the amount of money you can, or at least for me and from my experience, like, the money you make directly from YouTube, if you're relying on AdSense, you're going to have a bad day. Like that's very that's a very fickle thing. And I think people should know that or do know that.
I think it's good to promote awareness of that.
Yeah. I mean, like it really came to a head with me. Like, is my last YouTube video before I took a break was I did a video on the red hydrogen, their phone, right? And like I made it before MKBHD made his, before anyone. I was like the first one on the internet to make it because it got announced and I made it and I put it out like 2 hours later.
I saw that on Twitter. You were really quick on that.
Yeah, I was Keemstarring it. You know what I mean? It's like if you're first and you have the traction and you get the view velocity, like it will do well. So it got like 150,000 views. I'm like, yes, we did it. Like my video's been posted. Like, but like at the end of the day, I'd make nothing from it. Like I don't make any money. That doesn't really help what I'm doing. So I had figured out like I think you and I had talked about, like, I did a breakdown on Kendrick Lamar, and so did you.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think that's kind of one of the ways that I bumped into you, is one of my subscribers, or someone that was subscribed to both of us. I forgot how exactly, but somehow I bumped into your content because we ended up making a similar type of series where I broke down music videos more on the editing side. I started like a year ago, and then you were doing some really cool stuff with, I think the first video I saw of yours was you were breaking down the lighting of another YouTuber's video, and I thought, because I suck at lighting, and I saw that I thought this guy's a genius at lighting. I didn't realize lighting is such a thing, And then we both made a video on the Kendrick Lamar Humble music video, and whereas I guess you can pick up the story from there, because what happened with your video.
Yeah, so I mean, I interviewed because I came from traditional quote unquote coverage of things like that. So I came through the blogging world, and I would get permission from the PR agencies and actually interview the DPs. And I interviewed Jeff Cronoweth, who shot Gone Girl and all that stuff. And I was doing podcasting back in the day. So I have this like editorial side to the company that I've completely killed. It's not a part of it anymore.
And I also, not to interrupt you, but I've been meaning to bring this up from the beginning of the podcast. The cool thing about you as a guest on my show compared to myself or many other guests is you have a very real foundation and deep root with actual industry work and actual film school related stuff, where a lot of people will always ask me about that, and I try to make it very clear that I'm doing more of this new media, new content type of stuff on my own, whereas you can draw from a lot of actual cinematography and industry work, right?
Yeah, and that's an interesting, the traditional media versus old or new media. It's something I think about quite a bit, which I'd love to talk to. But just to wrap it up on the Kendrick thing, I interviewed Scott Cunningham. I'm pretty sure that's his name. I forget at this time, but
he was the DP, right?
Yeah, the DP. Like the day after it came out, I'm friends with the person who colored it, and I know the director, I know the production company, and I got to the DP, who was relatively new to the scene. And I hit him up on Instagram, where Instagram is the social network for the film industry right now. That's it's that's why I focus so much time on Instagram, and it's been working great. I DM'd him on there, instantly wrote back. He was like, I would love to talk about this. I told him, I was like, dude, this video is going viral on YouTube. Like videos don't normally do this. Like not even like the biggest music. Despacito
Yeah.
did better, but like
Obviously, yeah. Most viewed
yeah,
video of all time, actually, now.
yeah. Yeah, it's that one, and there's another one that Crash Shot is doing really great too. But it's like I told him, I was like, this is going like quadratic viral. Like
Yeah.
every day the views are like squaring. It's crazy. So I was like, we should make a video about this, and I'm gonna put your name on it. I'm gonna put your Instagram on it. I'm gonna put Dave, the director's Instagram. It's gonna be great for everybody. Company 3 who colored it, they were all involved. They were like, yeah, we'd love for you to do this. So I interviewed him. I made almost the exact video as you. It's exactly the same thing.
I feel like you did. I feel like you had your own take to it, you know. And I saw like 3 people made a video about it too. And just like you were saying with the red hydrogen thing, I was real quick on it because I have my ear in tune to these type of things. And I remember I stayed up all night to make the video as soon as it came out because I knew it was gonna go viral right away. And what's funny is, this is a tangent, someone who made their video like 2 months after me and you made our video, their video ended up getting the most views. So there's like a weird timing where if you're too early, I feel like I was too early, you know, I didn't even pick up. There's like that weird median curve. But
well, it depends on how you're going viral. There's many different ways of getting, you know, views on YouTube. And what happened to me is that because I interviewed the DP, we got 180,000 views or something like that in under a day, which was fast. And the reason it did so well is because I have a music video background. I shot music videos for a long time, and I have a lot of connections in the hip hop world in general, kind of from older connections at this point. But they saw that I did that. They were like, this is cool. This is going viral. And all the blogs want viral hits too. So basically all the hip hop blogs picked up my video in the first like 6 hours, and then it hit the top of the subreddit for hip hop on Reddit.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a really good push on Reddit.
Yeah, so it was Reddit and the hip hop blogs all together. Now the problem from that was I woke up to, I was like, oh my God, we have like 180,000 views. Like this is going great. You know, this is great publicity for everyone. Like we did a good job, but the label flipped out. So that's the difference with my YouTube channel specifically, is like when I do videos about music videos, etc. Like at this point now, I can't just like make the video. I actually have a PR team that goes out like the traditional way, and we approach the label. We pitch that we're going to make a video, and we talk about what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. We get permission. We have a contract. So like that's what's kind of evolved, because the label really didn't like that we did that, even though yours was out and other ones were out too.
Well, I guess is the reason that they didn't like it is because at this point you actually had like proprietary information with it by interviewing the director and people who are tied directly to the music video, or just because you had more obligations and relationships to uphold from your long background?
It was a little bit of both, and I can talk about it now. I think we had a cease and desist. We had possible legal action.
Nobody's going to listen to this that was doing that, right?
That's probably true. But lawyers who do internet prosecution are very thorough. Yeah.
Well, hello, lawyers. Please subscribe and like.
I've got my friend lawyers too, but like, I mean, basically, they had shot several music videos altogether, and we were talking about the first one. But they had shot DNA at the same time. They had shot a bunch, and they're still coming out. So I know things about those, and they don't want any of that getting leaked. And leaks in the music industry mean loss of revenue, right? So leaks of information, leaks of albums, leaks of whatever. So the fact that the DP and the director and the coloring company had done this, and we didn't consult them through the normal channels, which we do now 100%, they were just uncomfortable with it. And so I don't make any money from making that video. I was just like YouTubing, and I was like, cool, let's just make a thing. But Company 3 loved it. Dave Meyers, the director, liked it. The DP liked it. We're gonna probably do more, but with Kendrick's label, we're just gonna chill out for a little while, because like they don't super love it. But that's what happened with that one. It was pretty cool now. But like when I do breakdowns of like, say, like I'm working on a breakdown now of Dunkirk, I'm in direct communication with Warner Brothers.
Okay, that's really cool. So it'll mitigate any of those future issues where there's a lack of communication or disagreement, right?
Yeah. So I would say that that's one of the strengths of my channel, and one of the downfalls is that like I can't play the viral game anymore, because I have to go through PR. So by the time I've cleared the PR and all that stuff, it's like that
Too late.
project.
Someone's
Yeah, I'm not.
starred you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get like you can do it because like you're not gonna get in trouble from necessarily like Kendrick's
Yeah.
label's not gonna call you. You know what I mean? Like versus like when if I make Dunkirk and we got clearance for Wonder Woman, we got clearance for all this. Like if I make those the wrong way, they know how to get back to me, and that's what happened. Early in YouTube, I made only movie breakdowns. That's like how I started.
Yeah, you have
because
a great series of cinematography of such and such music videos or movies and lighting, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, they won't be on the internet too much longer, but that's how I started off doing YouTube, was like hour long, every frame of painting, my version, which is like really long, and laborious breakdowns of BTS and whatnot. And we were doing that without going through the PR channels and all that, and that ended up leading to a legitimate lawsuit, a legitimate strike to the channel, a legitimate cease and desist. They called my agency, my DP agency, which is Gersh, which is like a big Hollywood talent agency, and they called them, and they were trying to burn it down. And so, I had to delete 25 hour-long YouTube videos. I had to completely restart over a YouTube channel that had like 40,000 subscribers. It was like starting from beginning.
And this
like,
was
it was like
Cinematography Database, the same channel that you are on now, right?
Yep. But like what's on there now, previous to that, was like 30 hour-long videos that were being posted on every film blog. They were doing really great, and we had to delete all of them. So that happened at one point too. And a lot of the people who follow me from back in the day, they know about that. And the stuff that I do now is like not that, because I can't make those videos anymore, because the internet's getting smaller and they track that kind of stuff now. So like I can't make those videos. I know people can. I know H3H3 just had a big win with
that's
like
what I was gonna say. Yeah, especially with relating it to my channel, where I'm kind of a lone ranger. I don't have any ties, and the thing is, I do understand those implications that you're facing, and I always try to give credit to everyone, and I leave the director's link and all the information I can find. And usually, actually, a lot of times, some people that worked on the video do see it, and they're appreciative. They said, "Hey, this is cool." Shout out to like Brother. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They directed a lot of Travis Scott's videos. They actually go as far as thanking me on their Instagram story and shouted me out. And that's really cool. I've only had one time where I did one for a Big Sean video that one of the people that worked on it kind of got pissed that I made a video about it because he felt like I was leeching off of his work or something. And I can see where he's coming from. I'm trying to play the viral game by putting Big Sean's name in the title, and I do understand that there's people behind the scenes that have worked on that I'm kind of getting in the middle of. But it's weird to me because like the H3H3 situation that you just brought up, I feel like I still have every right to make these because I'm just kind of just talking about the editing in my opinion and perspective. I'm not revealing or leaking anything. Where's the difference there, do you think? It's just the industry people that you're actually bringing on, or where are you going with that H3 point?
Well, the thing is, so internet copyright law is something I know very, very well. I have actually 2 different lawyers now that handle this type of stuff for me, on top of my software lawyers, which is a completely different arena. We're not talking about feelings. I don't care about the directors, how the director feels about it. I don't care about that. We're talking about the person that owns the copyright to the images that you're showing and publishing, not sharing. You didn't share it on Facebook, or you didn't copy and paste the URL to the Vevo on your Twitter. You are republishing someone else's copyrighted imagery, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter if the crew likes it, if the director, if the producer. It doesn't matter. It's who owns the copyright to that music and to those images.
Yeah,
that's what matters. And like, long story short, people are getting away with it. Yourself, myself. Though I got caught several times.
Now, is it not fair use though?
It's not. You can try. I've done the legal legwork on it, and H3H3 is fighting his own type of interesting battle on it. But he's mostly republishing other YouTubers' work, so that's a different. That's a more gray area. But if you go up against a record label or you go up against a movie studio, and they cease and desist you, do not fight that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Do not fight
I've
them on
gotten
it.
copyrights, not strikes, but just where they've claimed the video, and I'm fine with that.
That's fine. That's fine. That means they're allowing you to do that. And the laws have been changing. YouTube copyright strikes were a lot different when I got my strike. It was a lot different. Like the punishment was much worse back then. And Channel Chriswell, he at the exact same time was getting sued by Stanley Kubrick's copyright owners because he did a breakdown with Stanley Kubrick. He had to go to court over that.
Wow.
So it's a tricky thing and it's an evolving thing and people have different views on it. But in the United States, if you live in the US and you're going to go up against like major copyright owners and legal, they will demolish you. It's people get away with it, right? Reaction videos and all that stuff. And that's what H3 is championing about. But I would just be cautious with it. I mean, keep doing what you're doing and everyone can make their own type of YouTube video. But in general, just as like a general, if you didn't make the content, you have to be very careful with republishing it. Even if it's screenshotting it and posting that on Facebook, that can actually land you in court. I've had close brushes with that. If you screenshot something on Instagram and you use the retweet app or whatever, like the Regram app.
The Regram, yeah, because there's no reshare app on there's no retweeting on Instagram. That
can also land you in court very quickly. And I've tracked a lot of different lawsuits. I talked about it on Anchor a little bit. And I don't get into the legal stuff because I don't want to make my channel about that, but I've been following a lot of the copyright laws, and it's why primarily my content now is 100% original. Like I don't really do that stuff, and if I do, I try to go through the PR agencies so that if the cease and desist does come, because there's a lot of reasons they will want to kill something like that, and I've learned this over time, they have the direct connection to me instead of going through YouTube's strike system and a more colder legal way of doing it. I'm like, just email me. I'm like, hey, Warner Brothers, you want me to take this down? It'll be down, and the second you email it to me, I'll just take it right off the channel. No big deal, you know. So it's an evolving thing, but I've seen the ugly side of copyright strikes and fair use. Just for anyone who's listening who thinks that fair use is it is a legal defense.
Yes.
Just like I don't want to go too dark in it like this either.
But no, this is interesting because I'm mentally preparing myself to delete half of. I don't do too much. I have like 12 music video breakdowns in total. But I'm mentally preparing myself.
Jordy from Cinecom does it too. We've had this talk. I have this talk with a lot of people just because I've gone through. But and you guys do whatever you want. Like and Jordy's not in the States, so he's a little bit freer to do whatever he really wants to do with that kind of stuff. But just like say you got accused of rape. This is what I talk about. The accusation. You have to go to court to defend it, okay? Yeah. And that goes out there into the world that you're getting accused of it. And the damage is done already. So it's the same thing where like if you get a cease and desist and they're like, you know what, we're taking this all the way, like you need to come meet us in court. Go ahead, like so you can claim fair use. That's great. You claim that. You can prove that. $50,000 in legal fees to just even show up in court that day. You can now claim fair use.
Yeah.
But you're still paying $50,000 to claim fair use.
And that's what H3 was going through is they had to start a Patreon, or what was it, a Kickstarter, right?
I wasn't tracking it, but yeah, sure, GoFundMe, something like that.
Philly DeFranco raised the issue on his show, and their legal fees were getting so high, even though they thought they were clearly in the right, which they ended up winning the case. But even if it was so clear cut to people, they still had to defend it with tens and hundreds of thousands of legal fees, which they were only able to pay because the help of the community through that Kickstarter, which is something that is a good point. Like you said, I don't think most people don't think of those consequences.
No, the people that because like I deleted 30 or 25 videos, they were re-uploaded to a fan channel, which I can have taken down at any point.
I've seen that one. That's not you, right? It's like
those are my
backup page.
Well, no, those are my videos that like I would say like one person spearheaded and like 6 people contributed to. They'd all downloaded the videos, which is fine. Technically against the terms of use for YouTube, but you know, and they re-uploaded them, and they were all collecting them on a No Film School thread that I had taken down because I know the No Film School people. And then they started that channel, and some of those videos have like 80,000 views, and the channel has like 20,000 subs or something. But it's a fan channel that they just uploaded it to. They don't do anything with it now.
I guess it's good for you. It gets the dirt off your hands. Or could that still have implications to you if someone else? That is crazy.
That is still an issue for me, though. All the people that I've had issues with we've cleared it all up. I have really decent connections now and ties into that media PR world of it. But that's just like a glimpse into some of like the realities of digital copyright law. And, I've had to spend money to learn all this stuff, and I don't really want to make content like explaining it. I guess this is like kind of broaching the subject, but for everyone that, unless you're sitting on, I would say, a surplus of, 50,000 cash up front, no credit cards, cash, like 50,000. That's what your lawyer wants. You can't credit card it. It's like direct bank transfer. You don't really want to get into that argument, because even to defend yourself, and you can talk to Channel Chriswell, you can talk to H3, you can talk to me, you can talk to several people who've had this actually come up. It's like most people get away with it because there's no money to get from suing those people, right? You have to figure out if there's like money to actually be like, if I sued you for everything you're worth over this, like,
you're gonna owe the bank money if you sue me.
am I gonna recoup my legal fees to do so? And so behind my YouTube channel is a relatively, I would say, successful software company that does have money behind it.
That you're talking about, right?
Exactly. And the other things I do to make money on the internet, there's something there at least to come after. It's not just a YouTube channel that's like, oh, we're gonna sue this YouTuber, and it's like, but they don't have any, but they're not gonna make. But like for me, if I get sued, it's a huge issue. Like it compromises my other endeavors, and I think that's where people, which I'm starting to care a lot less about what people think on YouTube, but people are like, oh, like your YouTube, you should defend it, blah blah blah. I'm like, YouTube is like 20% of what my life is today. So it's like if I had to cut it off because it was compromising the other 80, it's gone in a second. And that's what I did a while ago.
That makes a lot of sense, and what you said is very true. There's a lot of realities that even myself, I brush it off, and I think I'm all right now, but I know there's a music video coming out that I know I want to jump on for SEO purposes, but you're making me think twice about it with some different perspective.
I would, go for it, and likely they'll just copyright strike it is the worst. And I know very thoroughly what the copyright strike system looks like in YouTube, like how you refute it, what happens if you do that, what the legal ramification is, what type of lawyer you need to fight that kind of stuff. Like I've done all that. But you're probably okay. But in general, the internet is completely clamping down on that. Like as an example on Facebook, and Facebook is really Facebook is kind of like the new YouTube for now. It's kind of starting to really gain a lot of traction. I know companies that I work for, who we make videos for, they only deploy on Facebook. They don't care about YouTube. Like they just don't care. They're like, we don't care. Like we want you to make stuff for Instagram and Facebook because they're the same platform.
It's the same company, yeah. Well, Facebook owns Instagram.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's the same content publishing ecosystem. So like if I make a sponsored video, I can put it on my Facebook, but then I can give them access to the analytics, and I can give them access to them boosting it, and we can share the money. And there's a lot of direct brand networking things that you can do on Facebook because it was designed as an ad platform, and Instagram now, because they're the same ad buy, I can do a lot more sophisticated things with a video on Facebook and Instagram versus YouTube. You put it on YouTube and it's like, well, let's see how it goes. You can't really do much to push it.
I read that Facebook just launched a YouTube competitor or something called Watch, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
For creators.
Yeah, I mean, all the platforms are going to have video now. I mean, it was kind of why Twitter died. So not died. Twitter's still one of my favorite.
Yeah,
one of my favorite networks.
This is what I was gonna say. I dabble in a little bit of stock investing. Obviously, there's Facebook, Amazon. I don't touch Netflix because I don't know too much about it because I don't use it. And then Google. I heard you actually mention this in one of your recent podcasts, coincidentally, but I heavily believe in Facebook and I invest in it with my own money. But I really believe in Twitter and I love it, but I don't invest in it because I know that it doesn't make money. And I don't see Twitter going away though. I only see it gaining popularity. But what's your take on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even versus Snapchat, which to me, Snapchat is dead in my business approach in my head, you know?
Yeah, well, that's a huge, yeah. So yeah, I talked about this on one of my anchors. It's it's FANG. It's FANG. Is Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Google being YouTube are the major. They're basically
companies.
they've supplanted the NBC, ABC, of the past. Now those networks are all coming to the internet, and this is all going. We're all going to come back to what it used to be as soon as those companies, and they're already doing it, join the game. So we look at like early YouTube, and we have Linus Tech Tips when he was working for because I interviewed Linus Tech Tips DP. I know his whole history now. They were early to that game of reviewing computer parts. He was doing it for a retailer, and he was early with that. And then he started his own channel, and he's the king of that space for sure. Like his brand deals are insane. Like his brand deals are bananas. They're lovely. And then there's everyone in these different categories. Like there's Kai and Locke they were working for Digital Rev, which is an online retailer like CVP or B&H. They were early on it too. So we have these like kind of pioneers in this space. And MKBHD, again, he's been making videos for like 8 years. Yes. He's the leader in that space too. But that's because these other networks didn't see value in it and they didn't put money in it. Now they do. So now we have The Verge, whose views basically rival MKBHD's. He's still more of a viral, interesting person to watch, but like The Verge, which is now kind of like a reimagination of like a Wired, except for the kind of like the new media, they're pouring money into it. So like they're like, oh cool, like yeah, okay HP, let's do a thing on your, let's do some content around your new laptops. Let's set the budget at like $500,000 for like a week, and we'll see how it does. So these people make the content, and they have $500,000 to now get you to see it. Versus most independent YouTubers, you're letting the algorithm go, you're letting all these other things. These people are throwing hard money at it, and that's the way the traditional advertising works in general, which is the world I worked in for 10 years as a commercial DP. So like they were throwing money at TVCs, so television commercials, Super Bowl, print ads, billboards. As soon as they start refocusing, which they're already doing, on the internet, it's going to just look like it used to, in my opinion.
It's actually so funny that you say this, because I was having a conversation with my buddy about this in the car just the other day, and I was trying to tell him that the opportunity that myself and yourself have right now, it's like the wild west, because it's such a new thing that someone like me is able to sit down in my makeshift closet studio and grab some land and reach people on my own, and I should not be able to be doing this. And as soon as these big companies realize in 10 years, not realize, they already do, but once things start really shifting over in 5-10 years, I don't think there's going to be room for someone. Well, there's always going to be room for someone to break out, but I was saying it's kind of crazy what's going on right now, because it's not going to be like that in 10 years once these companies really realize what's going on.
No, it'll be different, but there are opportunities within this, and that's where you look at different platforms. Like Facebook is already owned by the corporations. Like there's very few independent. I think there's very few independent Facebook content creators that are hitting the numbers. Like you look at, like, I'm not talking about like Occupy Democrats or something like that. Like that's a different approach to content. But you look at like what's her name? I forget. She's like the former cheerleader, Jen Arbor. Is that her name? But she's doing great. Kev on Stage. I follow a lot of the Facebook only video influencers. They're only Facebook. They don't do any YouTube. They don't do any other.
I'm not much following via Facebook, although I do believe in the platform. I don't check pages, but there's a lot of people in the fitness world, or especially fitness world, I feel like, who have big Facebook pages.
Facebook is where you go if you want to. I'll just say it like simply: if you want to make money selling something that you own, that you're promoting. Facebook was it was originally a Facebook, just like a yearbook of like photos and stuff. But like it has been re-engineered to be the platform for that, and YouTube has not. Google has not innovated in the like the marketing component of what they build. They're more of a search engine. So it's kind of when you think about the different mentalities and ethos of Google versus Facebook, Google is about you searching for content, right? That's that's like the fundamentals of SEO, right? So that's the Google search engine. Facebook is Google, YouTube is the video version.
I think Google and YouTube are the top number 1 and 2 search engines in the world or online.
Not the world, definitely the States. Maybe it's English speaking. Sure. I mean, they're banned in China. So
yeah, I see in my analytics. That's funny. Someone messaged me on Facebook about like getting my content to China or something. It was some weird business opportunity, but
I mean,
regardless.
I mean, Asia and China is a completely different thing because, like, in China they have, I forget what the YouTube equivalent is. I've watched some of the stuff, and they don't use Amazon, they use Alibaba, and so there's a whole different ecosystem versus Amazon affiliates, etc. But Google and YouTube are about you searching for something, right? So it's like, oh, I'm interested, and that's how we SEO. It's like, oh, I'm interested in the new Kendrick Lamar video. I'm going to watch the video, and then it's going to be like, oh, you might want to watch these other ones. That's how you and I leech views off of stuff like that. Facebook is the opposite. Facebook looks at you, and they're like, well, what do you want, right? So it's like a television station, basically, that guesses and through computer learning knows what you like to watch. It knows based on what time of day is it. It's like, it'll know like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. You're getting off of work. You probably want to watch fantasy football shit. And it's going to give it to you. Or it's noon. So you want to watch like, topical things that you're going to talk about, political things that you're going to talk about with your coworkers. It knows you time of the day. It tracks you for your lifetime on the platform, and it throws things at you. So that's the difference. On SEO, as far as a business, if I need to get people on YouTube, I have to trick it into like basically content marketing to people. So it's like, oh, you want to see a review of the new C200, for example. Like I could make that video today, right now. I could go make it. It would do great. And then in that, I have to put what I'm trying to market.
Yes.
Right? So that's the principles of YouTube content marketing. Whereas Facebook, I don't have to play that game. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make a demographic: Los Angeles, Austin, Seattle, London, Boston, New York, Miami. You're interested in cinematography. I select this. You have graduated college. You're male, 18 to 30. You are all these different things. And I'm narrowing this demographic down. And then I send out my video on that. I have to pay money, but it usually does okay.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people who are listening, they might not understand, but you're talking about Facebook's advertising purchasing system, which is probably the most, I don't want to say complex. It's the best one on the market because they know so much information about billions of people, and it's so specifically targeted, like you just said.
Oh, it's the best. And I've been doing Facebook marketing I have 70,000 on Facebook. I mean, like, it's like just through not passive, but active use of it. And it's the best video platform for that. And now we tie that in. You can do the same thing on Instagram. Okay. So like my Instagram stories get 10 to 12,000 views each. If and when I push ads into that, I can hit everyone on Instagram, which is basically the whole film industry at once. So for me, like $1,000 ad buy, I can hit you on Facebook and Instagram, and I can almost guarantee that you at least get impressioned on it. So like,
and when you're doing these ad buys, you're doing it specifically for Cine Designer and your courses, right?
Right. And I track conversions. I look at it, and I look at YouTube, and I'm like, okay, so I link out to, like, after this, I'm making a video, and I'm going to link out to the courses. There'll be value in it. So worst case, if you don't want the course, you still got some entertainment and some learning done out of it. But I kind of put it on the internet, and I'm like, well, let's see how this goes. It's like, it'll probably get 30,000 views in the first week, something like that is what I would guess. But it's really kind of sketchy. It's almost like TV advertising where I don't know who watched it.
Yeah, it's more of a crapshoot, and it's more of a taking a chance at the SEO. But what you're saying is really interesting, because I think a lot of people have it set in their head that there's only they only see YouTube, and they see all these big YouTube stars blowing up, and they don't understand that there's many different paths to the same route of success. And you're bringing up a lot of very interesting side and maybe lesser known or lesser used tactics that are probably more efficient for you, and that might be more efficient for many people, especially when you're talking about you have your products which are, like you said, enterprise level priced. So you have $1,000 ad buy. People might think that that's ridiculous, but when you take a look at that, that means you however many people you reach with $1,000, I don't know, like tens of thousands of people, maybe 100,000. All you need is 3, 4, 5 people to buy your product, and now it's worth it, you know?
Yeah, it's the ROI. I put 1,000 in and I expect, 2,000 to 3,000 back, that sort of thing. And Facebook can deliver that. YouTube is way more of like, I see YouTube as more of like a brand expanding charity type thing. You know, because I'm just putting out good stuff into the world, and we kind of just hope that it comes back, and that's a much usually only bigger brands can do that. It's like, oh, HP, or Red Bull, I'm going to sponsor the breakdancing event. HP, I'm going to sponsor this whole Counter-Strike Go tournament. I don't know if we're going to sell any more products that day, but we're just putting the brand out there in a positive light. That's really what YouTube is for me. I'm not like cashing in on YouTube like by any means. Like I'll say it, like Google AdSense a month, I'm making like $1,000 a month from Google AdSense. It's like, and like that's cool. Affiliates, I can make like another, like, I don't know, like maybe 1,000, sometimes 2. I'm not Craig Adams. Like if Craig's gonna be that dude cash.
Yeah,
that dude
I'm gonna
cashes.
ask him about that next guest.
Oh, he'll tell you the numbers too. He puts it out there. Like he's making like 5 or like 6 or 8 a month, 1,000 a month on just pure affiliates alone. And he has a small like his personal, because he's is small, so he's killing it. Like, compared to like these other big tech channels. So it's like, so like I can make, like 3,000 a month or something like that from pure YouTube, and then brand deals for me are like anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for one of those situations. But those are a lot of work, and it's gonna be in like freelance again. So like that's if anyone knows, I don't talk about it on my channel. I'll talk about it on yours or Roberto's or whatever. But it's like, but those are the numbers of a channel that's 150,000 subscribers. That is basically out the number one in the space.
Yeah.
Like
and not to discredit yourself, you have a very, very well done Instagram page and, like you said, Facebook page, and you have a very well developed brand in a pretty particular niche of cinematography. So that obviously like influences things as well, and you've done a good job with that.
Oh, I appreciate that. But like, so those are the numbers of pure YouTube for anyone. I imagine a lot of people listening to your stuff are interested in maybe doing YouTube. It's like, those are the numbers that looks like that from that, versus I won't get into my numbers from my, like the bigger company, but they're much bigger.
You can imagine it's a higher ratio compared to what you just said.
Yeah, it's much different. So like, like there is passive money to be made from the channels, and I engage in those things just because I should, like that stuff helps pay the bills and whatnot, but it's not like the primary business. And if you listen to, I learned very, very early on from Jared Polin, who I was very happy to be able to meet the same time I met Casey Neistat. He talks about the business of running his YouTube channel. It's like the dude, he's doing all this stuff, like Carl Taylor, like the Shane Hurlbut. I haven't met Carl, but I met Shane. Like all these people that make content like this, like it's all to serve a purpose. Like we're not YouTubers first, we're business first. YouTube is like fourth, so like, you watch a lot of those people work. It's same with Andrew Kramer. Like Andrew Kramer's just not making After Effects tutorials for fun. He's converting people to Element 3D sales and then all that other stuff. So it's like, and that's what's sustainable. That's why people are like, oh, you want Patreon? I'm like, I don't really need Patreon.
I don't
think I sell things. I don't need to like necessarily do that. So it's like you said, a lot of people, especially the younger people who don't come from like a business or marketing world, it's like, I just want to be famous on Instagram or YouTube. But I'm like, well, you're going to have to get a job then, because like that will not pay necessarily.
Sustainability. Yeah, that's the key word that I think to drive it home is sustainability. And it's not to say that it's easy. It's not easy at all. Like you said, you're spending your life and years developing your software and company, and it's not easy. It's not just like, oh, just have a product, but it's sustainability, and it's the route that you have to take.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to look. I mean, I've studied YouTube before I jumped on. I studied all facets of YouTube, and like, I think people just lump all YouTube. It's like, oh, a YouTube star. I'm like, but that's like saying like, that's like just basically saying a successful person, right? So it's like, oh, you're a successful person. Well, what are you successful at? So on YouTube, there's fitness trainers, and Instagram, it's like, well, they have 5 million followers, but then they convert to $10,000 personal training contracts. And then there's musicians like Alex Iono and Will Singe. It's like, and Justin Bieber, who I worked with earlier on in his career when he was still doing YouTube. It's like, oh, you're not famous on YouTube. You must make so much money. It's like, no, he's a singer.
Yeah, they have a hard product and skill.
That tours and has record deals and has merchandise, and then they make YouTube videos. So like people just see the YouTube side of it or just the Instagram side of it, but like if they didn't have the business part of it, there'd be nothing to do. It's like, and we look at like the fringe examples of like Kylie Jenner, who gets paid like $500,000 for one post. That's the Kobe Bryant. That's like the one person in the world who's getting that. Like, there are not many of them. Like the vast majority of the micro influencers and like medium influencers, like 100,000 to 500,000, they're just running businesses. Right. They're a musician or they're a personal trainer. I just started following a bunch of carpenters on Instagram, and they're killing the game because it's like, because I'm building out 3D sets right now, and I'm
that was funny. You posted on Facebook something about, or Twitter, you watched some old door video or
from Bob
HGTV. Yeah.
And it was super valuable for me. But like, so like when we look at social media, it's like all these are just normal people. They're just also making content, and they're all just normal businesses. They're just also making content. I just think that a lot of people see it, and it's like they just see the content. They're like, if I make the content, I'll be successful and make the money. It's like no. Like it's the business, and then the content. It's just like if you're a creative, it's like you can't just have a baller Instagram page where you do graphic design. You have to have a graphic design business, and then have the Instagram page, or else you're not converting.
And I think it's okay for, a younger person might get into it backwards, and they might end up having to figure this out as they try to maintain sustainability, but that's probably why it's definitely a struggle where a lot of people fail. And I also think that just because you see someone with a lot of high numbers and followers isn't automatically successful, like you're saying. And that's also a misconception. People see someone with 1 million followers and they think that usually, if you have 1 million active followers, it's going to come. But there's people who you see on those drama channels like Keemstar. There was just some kid on there that quit his thing at one of those big houses and teams, and he's saying he has like $100 in his bank account and he doesn't know what to do. And he's got lots of followers and fans, but there's a disconnect there. But
and there's like, I don't want to bring up names because this is an extremely small, like extreme. I went to NAB and I met every single person there is in the game. I met everyone over like 2 or 3 dinners. I met the entire worldwide industry except for China, for the content that we do. And it's like, only the content influencing doesn't make very much money. Like, no. And most of the people that sustain it, and in the background, like I had dinner with Vincent Lafray in LA and Shane, and like the people that like make actual money at this, there's a lot behind it you don't see. You only see like the sponsored videos and like the YouTube stuff and stuff they put out, but like there's so much business behind it to make that like an actual sustainable thing. And you see that people that like I don't want to say their names, but like there's 2 very famous YouTubers who left their YouTube channel. I think we might know who this. It's like, and started their own, and it's like, and that's a struggle. Like I don't know their numbers. That is a struggle. And I know like if we talk about, because I don't follow them as much as I used to. It's just for fun. But like, Keemstar and Leafy and like that whole world. Yeah. They're not brand dealing. These are the people that are going to get struck down by YouTube. Yeah. Well,
Keemstar and them, they have things like that. The G Fuel company. Keemstar is doing very well, actually. I've listened to a lot of his interviews and stuff, and he's done actual investing in business deals behind the scenes. But I think someone like Leafy was relying a lot more on just massive amounts of views.
And that's like, it's like, and I follow what they're doing and the games they play. They do this because I was in hip hop for a long time, and like the whole hip hop feuds and like the diss tracks. And now Rice Gum, he kind of makes a joke of that whole scene. Over. It's all just a joke. It's like WWF. They're not wrestling, and no one's actually fighting on the internet. It's all fake. But
I think once you understand, like you said earlier, that there's a business behind it, it explains all this weird erratic behavior. Like, why is this person vlogging in public? Why is this person sticking a camera? If people understood a little bit deeper of the motive behind it, it wouldn't look so crazy as it does on the surface.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I've got so many examples about like not failed, but like,
Yeah.
the trials and tribulations of people on YouTube. Because I talk to a lot of YouTubers
Mhm.
out of our category, like way out of our category, like just like in general. And it's like, it's if and I know the people that rely on the AdSense views and like that is that's such a bad business for like, what are you building?
It's
Like
impossible to sustain, especially it's just hard to keep up views every month, and creating content every day is tiring as much as it might not seem. It's very, very hard to sustain. And where you can leave like for a month and go away. This is I don't want to act like I'm on top of this and I figured it out. I've managed to escape having AdSense be my number one and only source of income, but at the same time I'm nowhere near comfortable, and I'm just kind of getting afloat and figuring this all out and trying to build out more software and continue that route. So it's
you have the
definitely
brand
a challenge. Now. Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhere, I have a pretty decent amount of traction, and I think I'm a genuine person in that weird way, and I don't sell out all over the place. And I believe that there'll be opportunities in the future, especially for a hard skill of an editor or someone creating content. This is going to become more and more valuable, but it's not as easy as as it might come across in this podcast. It's a challenge, but as long as you're aware of it, you should focus on it.
I think you learn this in business very quickly, where it's sink or swim. It's like you can't really judge people for how they make money. It's like people make money the way that they're going to. Just like if you're, I just watched Dunkirk. It's like if you're in the hull of the ship and it's sinking, you don't judge people for how they get out of that boat alive. That's kind of like the one of the themes of Dunkirk. As I'm trying to put together a breakdown for that movie, I'm doing a little different, but it's like, the theme of that is like, this is survival and it takes whatever it takes. Business is the same way. It's like, you need to make money. It's like, however you make money, it's like, you can't really judge other people for it. All I'm saying is that like that road of like the views and monetizing those type of platforms is not as like you were saying, stable and sustainable as it may seem, like as you watch the other people. It's like, because we look at Casey, and Casey was a huge influence on me as well in the beginning, because like I didn't really care about his snowboarding videos and like the viral videos. I just looked at him, I was like, well, here's a guy that has a software company, regardless of how well it's doing. He started his YouTube channel. He said this. He doesn't talk about it that much anymore, but it's like he started that YouTube channel to promote Beam.
Well, I feel like he had it. I think he started the daily vlog to, I think he said it nonchalantly, like, I'm 30s or whatever, how old he was. I'm doing a lot of interesting things. I have a company, and that was one of the main driving factors, I think.
So it is. So it's like people look at Kiss, it's like, oh, he's just like some normal guy that like records his life. It's like, oh no. Like, he's been hustling for a long time. He finally got something that he wanted to do traction with. He understood how YouTube works. He'd watched the daily vlog. He's like, I could probably turn this into something. And what he sold Beam. That's the end goal. CNN. That's the end goal of the daily vlog. He's like, he sold Beam. It's like, and then what happened? The daily vlog ended.
Yeah.
It's like a startup. It's basically a media startup. So like, then you have like, David Dobrik and like the daily vloggers and Ben who just daily vlog to daily vlog, and the business is that. When do they get to stop? They don't. When do they sell Beam? Yeah. When do you get this $10 million check? And you're like, cool, that's all been worth it. Great. Now I'm going to move on to my next. Like that's the backwardness I see of internet business and people who approach it that way. It's like the vlog isn't the business. It's typically for the sustainable people, and nor is the content. It's to serve what he's doing. So people look at Casey, it's like, oh, he's different opinions, blah blah blah. Like it's surprising amount of hate towards him, but whatever. I'm like, yeah, but he won. He sold Beam. Like you watched his videos.
Yeah.
And he sold Beam, and now he works for Samsung, and he has a sustainable lifestyle with his family in New York City. So like, what
big influence to myself and probably a lot of others about 8 months ago, a year ago, or however long it was when he first started picking up traction, definitely made me realize how hard a person can really work, and that I was not working hard. But I think too, like we've been talking about Facebook and a lot of things, like you're saying, YouTube has its other, perhaps not direct monetary rewards, but it is still valuable, I think, because, for example, myself building this relationship with you or meeting you. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't maybe I would have, but I met you through YouTube. You met me via some YouTube content. And although right now I may not be of the greatest value to you, perhaps in 2 years from now, I start some amazing company, or I'm a lot further in my endeavors, and I can come back and we can help each other in some interesting way through that initial seed that was started via YouTube. So it's not always one-on-one direct, you know.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not useful. I mean, I spent a year. I was doing 5 videos a week for months to get to 100 and whatever 1,000 subscribers. Like, so I see the value in it, and I have it. I'm just trying to like put the caveat of like, it's not the boat.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, it's like part of the boat. It's like one of the main sails. I'll give it that, but it's not the hull. Like if the body of the ship goes away, we're all dead. But you know, it's just one facet of it. And there's no question that like for networking, like I said, like once we hit 100, was it 100 or I forget, whatever. We hit a certain number, and all of a sudden, all the marketing companies in the world started to take notice. And you've seen that too. I've seen like you know, and YC Imaging, and like all of a sudden it's like, how does this guy have a new camera every single week? It's like, well, they send it to you. That's why, because like they're getting more value from you than they're giving. Like they get more value from you than you get from them, unless they're paying you like really well. Like
unless you're smart about who you gotta be smart about who you work with. Yeah,
and we could talk about brand deals too. I don't know if anyone, people who actually do brand deals, there's like not that many people in the world.
And when you say, I get what you're getting at. When you say, what's a real brand deal to you?
A brand deal for me, because the film industry is so small, we're not doing CPM. I'm not like, like anyone who brings it up in a pitch. I know this is like a small audience of people that care about this probably, but it's like, in the pitch, it's like, okay, cool. So we have this product. We want you to make a video about it. Great. Okay. So what's the exchange here? And it's like, cool. So, and there's a lot of companies that approach me like this, like Squarespace and those kind of people. I'm like, yeah, okay, you guys can go away. Or audiobooks. It's like, for this many views, we'll pay you this per 1,000 views, right? And I'm like, well, fuck that. Like, I'm not here to get views. That leads to clickbaiting. That leads to like, you know, selling out the audience in a bad way. I'm like, that's stupid. Like, so like, I'm looking away from like a longer term thing. I'm like, listen, like I'm a voice in this space. You could pay a lot of money to get people to know what your product is. And like a lot of the other ways, like Facebook and Instagram, it's like, that's not going to work. Like for your particular product, like they'll see it and they're like, well, okay. For instance, Drobo, who I just did it. It's like, okay, it's some blank black box that you put hard drives in. Next, like, what do I care? You know what I mean? Versus me saying it to someone, you're instantly like much closer to a sale. Like you're just instant. Like people message me after, like only has like 5,000 views or something. Or I forget. It doesn't even matter. I don't even like track that too hard as much as I did. It's like, but I have people that message me. They're like, oh, cool. So I saw your video on the Drobo. I just bought one because of the video. What hard drive should I put in it? I had that DM happen last night. And it's like, they sent me one Drobo, and I'm like, I literally sold 10 of them the first day.
Yeah, it's worth it for them for sure, and it's worth it for you in a little bit. But obviously, to make content about it is then it's a whole other obligation that some people. Then you can also get into charging for that, you know.
So that's an entry brand deal, and I've done like many, like lots of them. It's like, okay, it's called content for gear, you know, or product, right? So like they say that this whole product is worth $1,000, so they sent me $1,000. Well, I don't really like those anymore. I don't really do many of them unless I really want the product, which I'm doing some for just to get the products because I'm like, hey, I'll take it. But like at this point, when I work with say a Manfrotto or a Canon or a Sony or a Fuji, like any of those bigger companies, I'm like, well, cool. So I put it this way. I'm like, how about you give me a budget? Right. And I learned this from Ryan Connolly. I'm like, how about you give me a budget to make this video better so that it's better and it does better. And then that budget goes into the production. It might go into Facebook boosted ads. It might go into like a specific Instagram campaign that I'll be doing myself on their behalf, which is why Facebook is really good because they can watch the metrics. And then I can also pocket some of that as profit as a production company. That's how I look at it. That's a real brand deal because then I have like, cool, I keep the product. I make the content that I own the copyright to the content. If it goes viral, I can license it, which doesn't usually happen, but it's possible. Like if I'm like, cool, let's go review a GoPro and we go do something phenomenal and we don't then license that content, I own it. Canon doesn't own it. That's mine. So that's my as well. Plus I want a budget. I want like, 5, 10, 20, it depends how much, like $1,000 to produce this. And then I can also use that to keep my company afloat. So like that's what a real brand deal looks like. And then you have even more senior brand deals, which I haven't negotiated yet. I'm talking because like it's a much different relationship. It's not even per video basis. It's just like we're gonna give you like a retainer $100,000. Okay. So you're talking, and like you could kind of sense what kind of YouTubers do this. It's like they always have the same sponsor over and over again. Mm-hmm. It's like we're just gonna give it to you, and like here's like a rough contract, and it's like, you know, so maybe show up to like one of our events and we'll talk about that. We'll pay for your flights, blah blah blah. You should vlog it when you go. Talk about our product every once in a while, kind of loosely, you know. And that's like a real brand. That's like being like sponsored by Nike. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, Kobe, you make one commercial for us and that's it. Here's your $1 million. It's like, no. Here's $10 million for the year. You're going to be doing a lot.
Brand.
You're doing a lot with us now. Like if all of a sudden we need you to be in like LA for this event, we'll fly you out there, but you have to come out. You're not getting paid for that event. You're just getting paid overall to be with us, and it's a negotiation of that. And I have some of those kind of being worked at as well. That's like a bigger brand deal. And then there's even bigger ones than that too. But those are the different categories. Most people are staying in like the affiliate. There's affiliate ones too. There's so many. But like the ones where you're not getting paid money, those are entry level, right? That's like if the brand can even trust you. It's like, do you respond to emails on time? Did you hit the marks of the video we wanted you to produce? Did anything convert? Did it feel good for everybody? And then it's like, cool, do that again, but here's like $5,000. And you to your discretion, you spend it. Maybe you keep all of it. Maybe you spend all of it, whatever. Like, and that's where like, I think like a lot of the freedom starts to happen. Linus Tech Tips. I learned a lot of that from Linus Tech Tips. I learned that from Ryan Connolly. I learned that from Shane. I learned that from all these people. Like, these people are getting budgets. Like these YouTube videos have budgets, like real budgets. It's like, oh, like for like a Linus, I don't want to talk about his, I don't know his numbers that well, but it's like, hey, we want you to promote this thing. It's like, cool, we want to make a short film about it. Like, give us $50,000 and we're going to go make a YouTube video. And they own all the cameras already. They own all the gear. They just go on location, they shoot it. It's like, cool, business done. You got your advertising. We made money and we made a video. Next. You know, it's like, that's a sustainable video production YouTube channel.
So shifting gears here, I want to ask you a couple questions maybe that someone in the audience might be, and we've dropped a whole lot of very, very valuable nuggets, I think, and gone pretty advanced and in-depth into this. You have some good videos on your channel that break down in a chalkboard type of way topics like this. But what is some advice that you would give to maybe someone fresh out of high school, starting out, some lessons that you have to learn the hard way? That I can never answer this question. A lot of people ask me, film school, did you go to film school? Should I go to film school? I can never answer because I'm not a filmmaker and I didn't go to film school and I'm not trying to be a filmmaker. But I think there's still some value in it. What are some tips and lessons that you learned throughout this long journey that you could go back and give in some short bullet formats?
Well, I'll say like what has been successful for me as a DP was picking one thing that I really liked outside of filmmaking, though it was for filmmaking, and going 100% on that and knowing everything about it and trying to be like the best at that one thing. And that one thing for me was hip hop music videos. And I'm going to drop a video tomorrow, which this will not come out. This podcast doesn't come out tomorrow, but tomorrow for me, I'm dropping a video where I shot a music video for Snoop Dogg. This like $100,000 music video. And this was a year out of college. I was shooting $100,000 music videos. And the budgets were higher back then. So it's a little bit inflation is scaled, but from very early on, I was really into hip hop for whatever reason. I thought it was really cool. I liked the whole music video scene and I studied it like how I study YouTube and how I study business now. I studied that and I knew everything about it. I knew who shot what. I knew the DPs. I knew the cameras. I knew the lights as much as I could. And this is in high school, in college. I just studied it.
And when you say fresh out of college, did you go the film school route?
I went to school at the University of Rochester, and I went initially for computer science and computer engineering. And I got about halfway through it and decided I wanted to do filmmaking. So I went to New York City and I interned at some production companies. I worked crew on some movies and commercials. And I graduated with a film studies degree, which is an English degree where you watch movies and you write essays. And that's how I can do movie breakdowns, is because I had to do that for like a year and a half just like in college. So I didn't quite go to film school, but I sort of did.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. And I think that's valuable that you kind of went on your own path. So become a master, but get focused on something. And a big point that I'm taking away that I see leads to a lot of your success is that you study and you research and you take a look at what's already working for other people. And you study the game. You're a student before you dive into something. And that's probably what gives you a lot of success, I'm sure, among other things about yourself.
Yeah, I'd say if you like something, and it could be anything, like especially with how the internet works, like flatland biking. I own a $3,000 flatland bike that I've been building out from parts from Japan and Germany. Flatland biking is interesting to about 10,000 people in the world, but you can still make amazing content about it if that's what you're interested in. And you just get into that scene, know everything, and be the best at that. And then it can translate. Once you get like up, you build vertically, then you can move horizontally, if that makes sense. Once you're like the best, or like considered one of the best in that category, you're then able to speak to the other heads of other categories because you are considered a top. And you can see that on YouTube as well. And like, for a superficial example, as soon as I hit a certain size on YouTube, all of a sudden, all these other bigger YouTubers were responding to my tweets. So that's one example.
It's so funny you say that. I'm going to show you this note I wrote down. I drew this long drawing that explains that same concept. I wrote this down that it doesn't matter what you do. All these little rivers, they lead to the same big pool of opportunity, And I was also going to ask you, what are some hobbies that people might not know? And you just killed two birds with one stone there. Flatland biking.
Nice.
But I think wrapping this podcast up, we've dropped a lot of very valuable information. I'm sure me and you could talk for a lot more, and there's a lot of things that I wrote down that I didn't even touch on. So what do you want people to stay tuned for from you? Because you've kind of been on a interesting hiatus, so your focus is in a lot of places that people might not be seeing content about. What do you have coming? What should people be aware of? And what do you want them to know that you're working on?
I would say that the YouTube channel, if you're looking for the back catalog of just like straight up cinematography content, that's really good. I definitely am not focusing on that anymore like I was. It served its purpose, kind of like how my podcast did as well. So YouTube, I'm going to keep doing it, but it's not what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So I would say check me out on Instagram. That's where I can do stories, because stories just have about as much time as I have. I'm like, I can talk to my phone for 5 seconds and then get back to work. That's how much time I have now. I'm rapidly updating Cine Designer and getting it ready for this next big push that's going to happen with technology. There's like a big change in technology that's happening right now for the computer scene. So I'm getting ready for that. Red Hydrogen, possibly going to be working on some stuff for that. I know that's a small niche of people that bought it, but regardless, there's a business to build software for that $3,000 cell phone or whatever it cost. And just, I would say Instagram. Go to Instagram, and that's where I'm just like daily vlogging through stories. I think Instagram stories killed vlogging for me. Like, there's no point in vlogging because if you follow me, you can just watch my stories, and I get as many views on my Instagram stories as I do my YouTube vlog. So I'm like, hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to Instagram, and that's where I'm putting out all the new stuff. Putting out courses, and I mostly talk about that on Instagram, and I'm putting out new Cine Designer updates, again, mostly on Instagram. I come to YouTube every once in a while to drop like stuff, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not the focus as much anymore. I don't feel like YouTube is the place for me to put my flagship stuff anymore. It just doesn't feel like it, and I've been there for a while, right? and I've been a lot of other places as well. I'm not like a YouTuber that's not on every. I'm on every platform, so like I have a good feeling for it. So I'd say Instagram. Go check that out.
Cool. So I'll leave the links to all your stuff below, because I know cinematography gets spelling the word cinematography gets my dyslexia going on me. I don't have dyslexia, but it gets me. But I'll leave all his links in the description below for anyone that's listening. Instagram, YouTube, everywhere you can find him. I definitely recommend go checking out Matt's channels and platforms, because he really makes honestly well-polished stuff that you don't see often of in the community, and it's coming from real background and experience. So definitely a gem on many social media platforms. Matt, I know you're super busy. You've got so much stuff going on that we didn't even discuss, family balance, software developing, all this stuff you're doing. So thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you spending an hour or two for this podcast here. Appreciate that. And any final words?
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I'm a really big fan of your YouTube channel. I know we spoke sort of negatively of YouTube, but that's with the caveat that I've spent years on it.
I still love YouTube. Shout out to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm still on it. I still watch it. I'm just talking about other things. So that's why we talk about it as kind of like semi-advanced YouTube users.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking at that level, but I still really like it. Everything you're putting out there is amazing. You're helping tons of people with your Premiere and After Effects and just all the post stuff that like I still need to learn. Like I only started using, I know they played out those like transitions like a month ago. Like you're catching me up, and I'm glad that we met over the Kendrick Lamar breakdown. we both had figured out that we figured out that niche of content together. So you keep doing your stuff, and thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next piece of content, everybody.